But if you get the immune system and the microbiome to work together, then you lower the body-wide inflammation set point.
Welcome to the Food Matters Podcast, your home for health and wellness. My name is James Colquhoun, filmmaker and founder of foodmatters.com, and I am your host on this journey to inner and outer transformation.
Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to talk to you about our Food as Medicine nutrition program. Imagine what your life would look like if you had the tools and knowledge to heal yourself. Now, it is predicted that by the year 2050, about half of all adults will have at least one chronic disease. This is despite the explosion of the global wellness industry, estimated to be worth $4.5 trillion US, and organizations like the USDA releasing nutritional guidelines every year. Wellness has entered the cultural mainstream, and yet our society has never been more sick. Unfortunately, we aren't taught about real nutrition in school. We have a medical profession that is rarely trained to use food as medicine, and the billion-dollar fast food and pharmaceutical industries are still misleading consumers. Now it's time to take our power back. Studying nutrition can change your life. There's no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to nutrition and health, and the amount of conflicting evidence online of what is the best diet is overwhelming. This is why we've created the Food as Medicine nutrition program, to alleviate the overwhelm and the hours spent seeking support. We want to help you transform your life and your health, and for you to help others to do the same also. You can find out more about the program at foodmatters.com/foodasmedicine, and you can head to our show notes for more information.
Hey guys, it's James here from Food Matters, and my guest today is Christa Orecchio. She is a specialist not only in healing from the root cause, but also in understanding the role that the gut and the microbiome play in reversing chronic degenerative disease of all types. Hippocrates said that disease begins in the gut, and Christa couldn't believe that to be more true. And in fact, you'll find out more about that in this interview. She's a best-selling author. She's the founder of The Whole Journey, and she is one of our most highly rated teachers. So I can't wait for you to enjoy this masterclass on how to heal the gut naturally and deal with things like skin issues and bloating and gas and gut disruptions. You're going to learn so much from this masterclass. Welcome, Christa. Wow, you're full of great advice and information. I love the work that you do, and I can't wait to chat with you today.
Likewise, James. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Love the Food Matters community.
Yeah, and they love you. Like I said, after we sort of released the certification program, we've had so much incredible feedback from you as a teacher, and I just love your passion for really wanting and helping people take control of their health. This is really something in common that we share between The Whole Journey and Food Matters, is that we want people to have this fierce independence, to reduce their reliance on the medical system, to reduce their reliance on the so-called healthcare system. And one of the areas of expertise that you've really dived into, and you're a great teacher on this topic, thank you, is the gut. And we're going to be speaking about that today. First question, why does the gut play such an important and integral role in the way that we look and feel? Because it's this inside, lower down organ. It's not our face, it's not our chest, it's not our legs, but why does it play such an important role in our overall look and how we feel? Please explain it.
Oh, well, it is everything. And I know, Hippocrates, the father of natural medicine, 5,000 years ago, he says all disease begins in the gut. And when you say it's not our face, it's not our chest, it's like we see health, right? We look at traditional Chinese medicine, we look at health, we see it on the skin, we see it in the tongue, on the face, we see it in how it's presenting or how it's not presenting. And, I learned a long time ago the hard way with my own personal health, that gut health is everything. I mean, nervous system health, I think, is the true foundation. But now we look at our society, and then gut health comes immediately after that, where all disease begins in the gut, all health can spring from the gut. And I love how you had everyone write down, the symptoms and also how their life would look if they didn't have gut issues. But, having worked with now tens of thousands of people on this, whatever you all wrote down in terms of like how your life could be better, I guarantee there's 10 more levels to that. That's how the gut is omnipresent to health and vitality. And when our gut is really healthy and thriving, so is our thyroid, so are our adrenals, so is our immune system. And then we feel different. We make completely different decisions with what to do with our life force. So it really is such a powerful topic, and we digest everything, right? And so we're eating, we've got to eat 3, 5, 6 times a day. Some people are only eating a few times a day, but we're digesting that food and we're taking the nutrients. It's not what we eat, it's what we absorb that moves the needle on our health. The nutrients and or the toxins, whatever it is we're consuming, and that's what we're building our existence upon. So
Wow. You touched on a few really big points there, and I don't want people to miss this. One was about Hippocrates. There's also some famous natural medicine doctors that say death begins in the colon. I remember, this statement, and how, especially in the gut and in the colon, we can accumulate a lot of impacted fecal matter. We can have, through poor digestion, not having enough fiber. Can you explain briefly just how our digestive system works, to give people a little bit? I know that you dive deeper into this in the certification program, but give a little bit of anatomy, because you study a lot of anatomy. I have, many people have, but most people don't. What happens when we eat food, and then how is it that our microbiome then is so linked to our overall immunity?
yeah. So, okay. Well, digestion begins in the mouth. And I know that we talked about this. We've covered in the course. You start releasing digestive enzymes, amylase, which digest carbohydrates in the mouth, which is why it is so important to eat, first of all, in a calm state. You don't want to eat when you're angry or you're upset. And I know that we talked about this, but to eat in a calm state and really take in the presence of having a meal. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it actually taste like? And I think that's definitely in the West is a huge problem, where we eat so fast, our mind's on other things. Sometimes we can't even remember, did I eat or did I not, right? Or we're eating in the car. So, you start the digestive process in the mouth. And so chewing your food, swallowing your food. And this is, again, if you're stressed, you're not going to produce, enough amylase, but you're also going to suppress hydrochloric acid, because then we're going to go into the stomach and we have to digest meat, right? We need hydrochloric acid to digest meat, especially beef. And so many of us, especially over age 30, but now since the onset of genetically modified organisms, since the onset of so many antibiotics, we have suppressed HCl. And we're not able to actually pull the vitamin B12 out of the meat that feeds our brain directly. And then, we're absorbing all the nutrients in our small intestine before the food is then going to be released, go to the colon, and we excrete our waste. And this is where the magic happens, or not, because you've got microvilli in the small intestine. They're going to be taking the nutrition, they're going to be passing it through the gut lining, and a healthy gut lining, a healthy small intestine, it's called tight junctions. So if you think of the lining of your small intestine like a brick wall, you should have really good mortar there, right? Because you want the good stuff to go through the body to nourish the body, and then you want to use the nutrients, and then you're going to use through fiber. Through using, your insoluble fiber, you're going to process out the waste and the toxins, but also through, soluble and insoluble fiber, you should be eliminating 2.2 pounds of waste every single day. That's what the studies show, because of the toxicity of the world. And so that's where fiber comes into play to help bulk us up. And like you say, we have impacted fecal matter, and we need to use it like a toothbrush of sorts to the colon. And so if we have clean inner skin, we have clean and clear outer skin. And so then you said, basically, how does the microbiome impact immunity was the second part of that question.
Yes, that's right.
James?
Yeah, well answered. I mean, that was so a great quick rundown on the digestive system. And, when you spoke to fecal matter, I want to come back to that point later with something David Wolf mentioned to me in 2007. I'll never forget what he said, but remind me if I forget. But first of all, let's go to the second part of this question, which is how the microbiome is linked to overall immunity. So you spoke about how the gut, how important it is for absorbing nutrients. But let's talk about immunity, because this is a big discussion. People are scared about their immunity because they're constantly either being sick or they're suffering from more chronic conditions or they're scared of a viral condition. And the gut plays a critical role in this. I know that many doctors have spoken out about the central role that the gut plays in immunity. How is our microbiome linked to our overall immunity?
I mean, I'm gonna go so far as to say it's everything. And so I want to define the microbiome as the collective set of microbes living in a specific community, right? So we're talking about bacteria, bacteriophage, fungi, yeast, parasites, protozoa, metals, viruses, you name it. It's that collective genetic material. And we should have 80% symbiotic, which means they contribute to good health, and 80 to 85, and then 10 to 15 pathogenic. It's like going to the gym. It keeps us strong. It keeps our immune system educated and alert of what to let out, what to kick out, right? We cannot sterilize. Okay, I've been saying this way before COVID. You know, our Food and Drug Administration has had this well over 100-year war on all bacteria, sterilizing and killing it. You lose all your power as a human being. It is not us against the microbial kingdom. It is learning how to coexist, because we have 10 times more microbial cells than we have human cells. This is about bonding together with the microbial kingdom and training and teaching and educating the immune system what is healthy and what isn't, so that we can have beautiful symbiosis. And so it's so important. And the collective, you know, we've worked with over now 8,000 people in our Gut Thrive in 5 program to shift the genetic code of their microbiome, re-educate the immune system, and then the immune system says, got it, thanks, I got that new genetic code, I'm going to replicate it to the other 6 microbiomes or places in the body where there are that collection of bacteria and microbes. And that is as strong as you get to be a human today. And I know I don't have to preach to the choir, James, but you know, the entirety of the pandemic has had me wanting to sing terrain theory from the rooftops instead of germ theory, which is a very fear-based theory. And it really, if you can get your microbiome to a healthy pathogen and symbiosis balance, you really have nothing to worry about, because that will lower your body-wide inflammation set point. And I remember all the way back in 2014, Time magazine, the cover of it, it said, inflammation is a secret killer. And it really is, because anytime, it's like if you've got a chain, like the weakest link is going to pop when you pull it. So if any type of infection or virus is going to come in, it's going to find the inflammation in your body, which is why some people, you know, they get their gut and brain problems. Some people, they have muscle issues and joint issues or respiratory issues. So it's going to find that weakest link, and that's what's called the cytokine storm. It's like lighting a match to wildfire, and now all of a sudden you have a tornado going on through your body. But if you get the immune system and the microbiome to work together and you lock it into the immune system, then you lower the body-wide inflammation set point. And now, you know, that storm coming through is going to be like a light shower. And then you get through it with grace and continue to build immunity. So it's just utterly important for us to really just coexist in the world, plants, animals, the earth, the human body. It's just to kind of lock all of that in together.
Beautiful. And I think there's such a deeper philosophy you're pointing to or speaking to here, because if you think about our relationship with the earth, especially from an agricultural perspective, we have come at it with this scientific viewpoint of eliminate all pests and bacteria and basically monocrop and broadacre crop corn, wheat, and soy. And what that has done is created the desertification of once fertile farmlands. And really the way that we create a desert is we strip the life out of the soil. We turn soil into dirt and we get rid of bacteria. And you're essentially saying that through all the hand sanitizers and this sort of way of wanting to kill off everything on our skin. And really, Daniel Vitalis speaks to this idea that we're like a donut. Really, our skin goes inside of our mouth and through the inside of our body and comes out at the other end, where there's one circular sort of donut stretched out as a human. And really,
that's
we're
it.
all
from mouth to anus. The whole thing happens. The whole human experience. Yes,
totally. And it's completely exposed in a way. I mean, it's exposed to the outer world. And that's why it's spoken about as being such a powerful defender from viruses, pathogens, bacteria, etc. But it needs to be strong, like you said. But we've gone and broadacre cropped and turned soil into deserts. And I fear that we're doing the same as a human species right now with the overuse of antibiotics, with poor quality foods, eating these foods sprayed and grown in these desert devoid environments that are no longer living and wild and vibrant. So there's a bigger picture where we're damaging our internal microflora, and we're also doing that on a macro level globally with our agricultural system. So there's so many ways that we can turn that ship around, and we'll be speaking about that today. What are some of the key symptoms that people will experience when their gut is not functioning correctly? And I know that you're going to mention some common ones, but let's speak to some of the more uncommon ones, because people might go, yeah, I'm not bloated, so I don't have a gut issue. Or I've got one regular bowel movement every 3 days. Can you imagine? I don't have any issues. So tell me, what are some of the most common symptoms that people will be experiencing if they have a gut that's in dysbiosis, that it's out of balance?
Yes. Well, you named a lot of the common ones in the beginning: constipation, diarrhea, gas, bloating, all of that. But really, so much, whatever escapes the gut lining goes directly to the brain. And so brain fog is huge. Memory issues. They're connecting a lot of early onset Alzheimer's and dementia, anxiety, depression, joint pain, all of these things. Insomnia. A lot of people don't connect their insomnia to leaky gut or gut dysbiosis. Skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, and liver issues, high cholesterol. I mean, if you're letting toxins escape and you're forcing the body to recirculate and putting them back in the bloodstream, the spleen now, went from 40 hours a week job to 80 hours a week in the liver. And so there's no way it's going to be able to produce cholesterol, healthy cholesterol, from which you can build healthy hormones from. And women, especially in our 40s and 50s, we're seeing just a litany of hormone imbalances. And a lot of times women think they're going into menopause or perimenopause early. And it's like, we heal the gut, we optimize their thyroid, because you're converting thyroid hormones. So many thyroid issues begin in the gut. I'd say 80% of thyroid issues begin in the gut, especially autoimmune disorders like Hashimoto's or Graves'. So that kind of takes us back to the beginning, right? All dis-ease, and I hyphenate that word because healing is regenerative. No matter what you are experiencing, no matter how much pain, how much discomfort, how many diagnoses there are. I've been doing this for 15 years and worked with so many people, and the power of the human body, like, just believe in it, give it what it needs, take away what it doesn't need, and it will heal itself. It's much harder, in this society, in this world, speaking to what we've done to the earth, to what we've done to the food supply. I mean, James, this stuff keeps me awake at night. I wish I would be out of a job because we would rejuvenate the microbiome of the soil. And if we do that, we don't need to rejuvenate the microbiome of the human being.
Yes. That's right. But unfortunately, we're stuck in a little bit of a dystopian dream right now, which is like this nightmarish, hellish sort of environment where so much of our food is now coming from these toxic agricultural products. And because it's on the health or the food pyramid as okay, modern grains, modern, processed foods are okay to eat. We eat them and we think we're okay. But unfortunately, that's not the case, And this was the case with my father. He's like, well, I'm eating well. It's got the heart tick. It says low sugar or no sugar. And then he's eating highly processed carbohydrates. Then he's also eating, aspartame and artificial sweeteners and sugars. And he's eating then margarines. I mean, this was like 18, 20 years ago, before our big family intervention. And he's like, but how can this be wrong? I'm following all the right guidelines. And yet he was very sick. And so he didn't feel that nutrition related to his illness because he was following what the government said, but he was unwell. And I feel like now there's a much greater awareness. I mean, when Food Matters first came out in 2008, I don't think people knew what goji berries were. or veganism or vegetarianism was something that was just relegated to the 60s and hadn't really made a revival yet. And then, spirulina was certainly not on the radar. And I'm not to say that all of those things are what define a healthy food culture, but certainly being aware of that has changed a lot. And I'm grateful for and for your work and for our work being a part of helping bring that to prominence. And there's a long way to go.
Right.
Next question.
There's
What are some of the key culprits that inflame the gut? Like, what are the big negative foods that impact the gut in a way that causes more dysbiosis and imbalance?
all the favorites. Excess caffeine. Okay. I'm not saying you have to give up coffee in general, but know the quality of your coffee. Keep it to 1 cup a day. Eat it with food. So caffeine thins the lining of the gut. Sugar kills your good gut bacteria. And we've, kind of worked it in, especially in the American food supply with the proliferation of high fructose corn syrup that's just peppered into everything mainstream you can imagine. And alcohol thins the lining of the gut. Stress, when you drive up cortisol, you thin the lining of the gut, right? And we know that because sometimes you get nervous or something, your gut goes on the fritz, so you have to go to the bathroom. Like you're clicking into you're activating the enteric nervous system, and it's okay to activate it every now and then, but on a consistent basis, we're going to do a lot of damage. And then genetically modified organisms, corn and soy, gluten causes leaky gut. We know that now. What it does is when we consume gluten, especially modern wheat, the hybridized version of wheat, it releases a chemical called zonulin. So I talked about those tight junctions, should be nice and tight every time we eat gluten, even if you don't have a sensitivity, right? It loosens. And so I will eat it, maybe like a couple times a month, and then I do a gut, repair, that type of a thing. It's the Italian in me. If it's in front of me, I'll eat it, every now and then. But it's what we do,
Pizza night, right?
Yeah, and we do gluten-free pizza and all of that, but it's just important to look at the cumulative effects. And then we have a chronic overuse of antibiotics in the Western culture. I mean, 55 million prescriptions of antibiotics per year are unnecessary. They're for viral infections. And people just are used to that quick fix, like I want to walk out of the office with a pill and this will help. Or they're the prolonged use, like, oh, you have a skin issue. I had one client had just a minor impetigo on her face, and the doctor put her on antibiotics for a month for that and destroyed your good gut health. And so I think of Gandhi, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. And that way of using these antibiotics, they are going to kill your good gut bacteria as they're killing the bad bacteria. But they're also just like a war. It's like open warfare in the microbiome. They're going to kill innocent women and civilians. They're going to kill the good gut bacteria. They're going to destroy the land and cause leaky guts. It is truly open warfare in the microbiome. And we now know that that's not the best approach, right?
Yeah.
The way we do it is and even a lot of naturopaths and a lot of herbalists will use high dose botanicals, still has that kill mentality. But we like to study the bugs and live in harmony with them. And so we understand something called quorum sensing, which is the way that bacteria and pathogens communicate. And so instead of just going in and guns blazing and dropping bombs, we just take away their cell phones and the cell phone towers. So they can no longer communicate. They can no longer replicate, no longer share their genetic code. We shift the inflammation response, make the terrain inhospitable for bad guys, right? And they start to leave on their own, and there's just so much less damage there.
Yeah, well, you're speaking to a few things that are very interesting, and I'd like to touch on them a bit more. One of them is this idea when you spoke about gluten breaking down the villi and essentially causing leaks in what you say the mortar between the bricks. This is the beginning of leaky gut. And then leaky gut has been implicated. Many researchers are showing this with autoimmune conditions, which is just prolific in our modern society and not very prolific in developing countries and indigenous cultures. And it makes me think, because I've spent time in remote parts of the world, in particular in Vanuatu, which is a remote island in the Pacific, and on the remote outer islands, they have no access to wheat or very little or none or bread or wheat. or gluten. They have no access to dairy. They have no access to refined sugar, and they're isolated from the world. These are
Yeah,
these
no
are
problem.
these are domesticated foods, right? And so they're eating an
Right.
indigenous diet, and they're wild people, and they don't suffer from autoimmune condition. They don't suffer very rarely, far less frequently from chronic illness compared to the West. Then
Yeah, we
in the
practice
main
on palmers.
town, yeah, exactly. In the main town, it's an ex-British and French colony. So what did the British and French bring to Vanuatu? Dun, dun, dun,
Bread,
dun.
cheese, and sugar.
Exactly. Yeah, bread, cheese, sugar to an indigenous culture that has had zero relationship with those foodstuffs ever. And so what that has resulted in is an absolute breakout and a pandemic in diabetes, in heart disease, in obesity. And you couple that with moving to a city where they're more stagnant, or they might drive a bus or a taxi. So they've gone from their indigenous lifestyle, moving around, eating natural foods, to driving a bus or a taxi in town, drinking soda, eating croissants, and having a cheese sandwich for lunch. And right there, Christa, is the entire
Heartbreaking.
human experiment in one small microcosm. And now we helicopter out to the world, and we're seeing these issues happen. And it's heartbreaking, but it's such a big truck or ship to turn around, because we've become so addicted to many of these products. And leaky gut leading to autoimmune conditions is what I want to get to. This, can you explain what's happening here? So when the gut wall breaks down, we call this leaky gut, then particles leak into the bloodstream and it starts attacking itself. What's happening here?
Yeah, so basically anything that escapes, like the gut is supposed to be our second skin. It's right, like our outer skin is protecting us. It's supposed to protect us from and protect the rest of our viscera, or the rest of our organs and our bloodstream. And it can't do its job. It's handicapped when it has leaky gut. Anything that escapes, these toxins are going out of the gut. They're going directly to the brain. And so I'm sure you're seeing these indigenous people with depression and memory issues and anxiety and all sorts of things. And then it can't detoxify. Now you put an extra burden on the liver to metabolize more toxins, on the kidneys, more toxins. It's not their job to do that. And the bloodstream's trying to refilter. And just this litany of issues is happening. It's a cascade within the body. And now, the blood has to maintain a very narrow window of pH. 7.25 to 7.45. If it went outside of that window, we would die. And so that's not an option. So now we're making it way harder for the blood to maintain that narrow window of pH. So it's like, okay, I got to pull minerals out of the bones. Sorry, you're probably going to get osteoporosis and osteopenia because I need some alkalization to keep this window, to keep it safe. So whatever is escaping is causing so much. And so leaky gut, it is the start of autoimmunity. And we never should have had autoimmunity. It never should be as proliferate as it is now. But it's like whatever else is weak within the body, that's how it's going to manifest. Some people as fibromyalgia, some people as rheumatoid arthritis. And so certainly the way back, and food sensitivities are running rampant, but I've run countless labs. I mean, probably well over 1,500 food sensitivity panels in my career, and we run them in the beginning. We heal the gut. We run them in the end. 90% of the food sensitivities are gone. Like their body's just reacting because food particles shouldn't be in the blood, so it's building
Yes.
up antibodies and it's fighting it. So that's stage one. You heal and seal the gut, and then you run and you say, okay, what's the real food formula for your body? Because a lot of these food sensitivities go away.
Nice. Wow. I mean, I love the way that you bring all this knowledge together. It really just makes sense. And we're so aligned on the way that we see the body. And I love the way that you teach. Let's talk about what are some of the key foods that really break down the gut? We've spoken to some of them briefly a little bit, but maybe what are some of the other foods? Because I know that we spoke about gluten, we spoke about alcohol, we spoke about other things, but are there any other things, like you think fried foods or?
Oh, Yeah. So we said okay, five most common food sensitivities: gluten, corn, soy, and eggs, and dairy. And we know that gluten and dairy, they cross react.
Hmm.
Corn, just get GMOs out of your diet as much as humanly possible, and then get rid of the pro-inflammatory oils. So there is actually no such thing as a canola, but we use canola oil all over the place. It's pro-inflammatory. They're using it. Restaurants have to maintain like a 28% food budget, and the oils are cheap. So almost every time you eat out, you're getting a pro-inflammatory, leaky gut causing oil, whether it be, in the US, we primarily use soybean and canola oil.
Hmm.
I always say, could you please cook my food in butter or olive oil,
Yes.
or just go baked, grilled, broiled.
Hmm.
And so you want to maintain the right balance of omega 3s to omega 6 and 9s. And the average person is about one omega 3 to 26 and 9s, and it should
Jeez.
be 1 to 2. That should be the lower inflammation set point. So get out the pro-inflammatory oils, and you can use ghee, right? It's clarified butter
Uh-huh.
with no milk solids, coconut oil, avocado oil, if you do use butter, and start getting in, and then olive oil, on salads and salad dressings, and you get so much bang for your buck in your health with
Hmm.
healthy fats and oils, and getting rid of the pro-inflammatory ones. So when you say fried food, it obviously in moderation, but it really depends on what it's fried in.
Yeah, this is a big issue where I see the fat discussion because, in the 80s, there was this whole war on fat, right? And then we went to low fat, no fat, everything. And now we're sort of turning the ship back towards, well, fat is good, provided it's the right fat. And I feel like we also had this war on animal products too, like and courtesy of a dear friend of mine, John Robbins, who said, hey, we're increasing our animal product consumption. We're getting more sick as a society. Problem is animal products. And he's correct. But the problem is factory farmed animal products because they're
Yes.
eating
Yeah.
corn, wheat, and soy. And so therefore
Thank you.
their bodies are high in omega-9, low in omega-3. They cause inflammation. Inflammation is the cornerstone of chronic disease. So if you take an indigenous culture or if you eat wild animal products at a smaller amount, because we do know long live healthy people do not consume large amounts of animal products, but very rarely are they vegetarian or vegan. However, if they're eating wild animal products that ate a wild diet, then they're much more less likely to cause inflammation in the body. So fascinating that all of this is sort of tying together our understanding of indigenous culture, also modern science, and it's a big thing. So we've spoken about inflammation, leaky gut. What about chemicals? Are there chemicals? Because I see so many similarities between hormone health and gut health. And what I know about hormone health is that fragrances, artificial fragrances and smells and chemicals can really set off the hormone system. Is that the same with the gut as well?
Sure. Well, that goes back to the fiber question of the gut can only pull out so much excess estrogen, and we need a fiber to be able to do that.
Hmm.
But don't put in the bad estrogens on your body. And it's, if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your body, right? That's
Hmm.
the you don't use phthalates and parabens. They when they cut open breast cancer tumors, they see parabens in there. They see dioxins, from the plastic water bottles. And so it's like navigating a labyrinth of every decision that we make to be a clean and healthy person
Mm.
in modern society and in our world. So sure, when we've got chemicals, we've got, 5G towers, we've got EMFs, we've got heavy metal exposures, and
Mm.
all kinds of things. And so that's why when we're living in a world like this, we have to do more things. I'm a big
Yeah.
proponent of infrared sauna. I'm a big
Hmm.
proponent of colonics several times a year. And
Mm.
and like you say, James, superfoods may just save our lives
Mm.
because we need to get the most amount of nutrition in the smallest form, right?
Yes.
Because you can only eat so much in one day. So we start getting in spirulina and goji berries and all of the superfoods, the
Mm.
turmeric and the golden milk, and then that's when you can really start to move the needle and shift the whirlpool of the inflammation cascade.
Beautiful.
Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed by conflicting online advice on the best diet for you? Are you struggling with bloating, hormonal imbalances, digestive issues, and unexpected weight gain? You know you need to prioritize your health, but you just don't know where to start. If you're listening to this podcast, you most likely value your health, feeling good, and want to be able to take the best care of yourself and your family. And why shouldn't you? At Food Matters, we believe that your body is worthy of good care and that no one is more suitably qualified to care for it than you. This is why we created the Food as Medicine Nutrition Program, to alleviate the overwhelm and hours spent seeking support to help you transform your health and life and to help you do the same for others. Learn from over 25 of the world's best experts in health and nutrition, such as Dr. Mark Hyman, Sarah Lance, Christa Orecchio, Vani Hari, Dr. Tom O'Brien, Elizabeth Ryder, and more. So if you want to understand how to heal your gut, balance your hormones, and reduce inflammation and chronic pain in your body, then head over to foodmatters.com/food-as-medicine to learn more. You will not regret this investment in your health.
Great. Let's transition this conversation now to a little bit more positive territory, because we've definitely highlighted a lot of the issues that we have in modern society and gut health. That's okay. It's good to look to transform. You need to get a clear picture of where you are, and then you need to have a pathway to where you want to be. So we've discussed where we are. Now let's speak about healing the gut. You know, there's a lot of different approaches that I hear out there, and we're aligned on the approach we're going to touch on today. I'm guessing that because I know your work. Is that we need to sort of heal and seal this sort of gut first. We need to remove a lot of the irritants, let it seal and heal, and then we move on to recolonizing. Talk me through a little bit of your the sort of the highlights of your process around that first stage of gut healing, because I know, yes, please. I know what you said. Just to touch on before, if you tie this in, when people first have an allergy test and they have like 100 things on there, this is a sign that you have a leaky gut because it's reacting to itself. But then how do we stop that process of being so reactive, the gut reacting to everything?
Well, you have to remove the offenders, right? So it's like take away, once we find out our food sensitivities or the foods that we just spoke about, you want to remove those and then help the body lower the inflammation set point. So I have people drinking a turmeric ginger lemonade like every day, right? You get lemon in there to flush the liver. You get the active enzymes to start removing toxins first thing in the morning. You start lowering the inflammation set point with turmeric, supporting the brain, calming this inflammation cascade. And ginger is going to start to train your body to produce more hydrochloric acid. Such a simple thing that you can do, right, for yourself. And so once we remove those foods and then we start adding in good, healthy foods, and then we want to start purging the pathogens. When I love to use food as medicine, and I think we may have talked about some ways that we do that. And I know you mentioned in the questions you sent, we'll have people do a bone broth fast to get a jump on it. And if you have adrenal and thyroid problems, then you have to eat with it as well. So you'd have fish and vegetables along with your bone broth. And if you have thyroid issues, you're going to need some type of carbohydrate like resistant starches or sweet potatoes, something like that. But you get a jump start on starving the bad bacteria without hurting any of the good bacteria, which is really beautiful. And bone broth, we know, is loaded with minerals. If it's cooked, slow cooked from pasture raised bones, and you use apple cider vinegar to draw the minerals out of the bones, if we do it old school, then you have so much collagen, it should be gelatinous. And that's going to start the food as medicine process of remineralizing the body, revitalizing the body, healing and sealing the gut, like through using food. And we're using for years, I had the worst case of candida that you've ever seen, which is how I got into gut health way back in the day. So I developed a cilantro oregano pesto that we make because oregano is the single best dietary antifungal that exists, right? Yes. Garlic is the antiviral. We're using the cilantro because yeasts live in harmony with heavy metals. A lot of times the body will overproduce candida just to protect you from the harmful effects of methyl mercury. So if you clean the candida, then you leave yourself really vulnerable, right, to the metals, which is why we have to approach the entirety of the ecosystem all at once. And so we start, we want to purge pathogens. And an important part of that is to get at the biofilms. So I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about that. So we use diatomaceous earth. Have you ever heard of that, James?
Yes, I have. It's like baby little crushed up fossilized dinosaurs, right?
Yeah. It sounds crazy. They're like old tiny little fossils. And so it's and they act like tiny little razor blades to the biofilms. So biofilms, are they're like little houses, right? Because no man is an island, no organism is an island. We like to live in our homes with other people, not alone, and they like to live together as well. So we have to slowly dismantle the biofilms, the little houses they live inside, right? And then we capture it with bentonite clay, which can also be very dirty. So you have to find good quality bentonite clay, lots of water, pull it out of the body, start pulling it out of the body. The clay is also going to pull out a lot of other toxins from the body. Then the food is medicine, the herbs, the low dose botanicals can gently knock down, and you can actually get to the wide variety of pathogens that exist within the gut at the same time, constantly lowering the inflammation set point. I mean, we have people doing pathogen purges that lose 30 pounds of inflammation in 1 month. And that's someone who's really been living that traditional standard American diet or the food pyramid. They follow that and they wonder what's wrong. And I know you went through that with your dad. And so the steps are so important. Like if you can't, I always say plant flowers in a junkyard. So people think, eat all the ferments and start eating your fiber and probiotic. Well, half the people we work with, they bloat up like a fish and they want to quit. Like you can't do that because you don't know what you're feeding. So you have to till the soil, right? Yeah, you have to till the soil, and then we'll use 11 to 13 different strains of different probiotics, and you need to make sure you have the bifidobacterium. I'm going back to my military analogy here, okay, because it is like open warfare. And so when you're rebuilding the gut, after you get the inflammation under control, then you see what you're working with. It's like pre-cleaning before you clean your house, right? Especially if you have kids, you've got to get it organized before you can actually clean it. And the pathogen purge, you actually clean it. Then you have to establish your strains again. You have to plant your seeds. And so we use a couple different recolonize. And so and so we use a couple different strains of acidophilus, which everyone's heard about, and like the military analogy is they're the soldiers, right? They're going to continue to escort the bad pathogens out of the body one by one. You're going to eat your food. You have enough acidophilus. You're going to start, getting more, let's say, B vitamins out of that food and more energy. Now your energy is coming back. You start to come alive again, right? And then we also have to use several different strains of bifidobacterium, and they're like the Army Corps of Engineers, because they're going to contribute and stay. And whereas the lactobacts, I call them, they're going to leave, right? But then we need those that are going to stay and contribute to long-term gut health. And that's the different strains of bifidobacterium. They're going to heal and seal leaky gut. Your food is going to do that, getting rid of the pathogens, but they're going to do that. And then you need bacillus coagulans, or several different strains. They're like the Army Rangers, the Navy SEALs that we don't have in our guts anymore. Like they don't seek to be comfortable. They can withstand hydrochloric acid. They're like the badasses of society, right? They can live with or without air, and they're going to kick out anything that comes in. They're always standing on guard. So if you can do that, now it's like a garden. It's healthy soil. They can take root. Then you add in the prebiotics. Then you start to add in the fibers, and that's food for this new good gut bacteria. And we turn the directive over to the human body, because James, you and I can never take the amount of probiotics that are indigenous to where we're originally from. For me, Europe. So it's where you're originally from. Then your body takes over, and it's so beautiful, and it'll start to manufacture strains of bacteria that science can never create, right? So from the food that you eat, the air that you breathe, the water that you drink, now it's this like self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's constantly showing it to the immune system. Hey, here's what we do. And at this stage, if you do it at this process, and I hope I'm not going on too much of a tangent, and please stop me if I am, but they're not talking about, we have good bacteria, we have bad bacteria, but we also have neutral bacteria. Have you heard of the commensals?
No. Teach me.
Okay, this is a whole, I was listening to this PhD in nutrition speak at a conference like 2 months ago, and she said, oh yeah, but we don't really do anything with them because they're neutral. But we've been studying them for 10 years, and we know that if they're in there and they're taking up real estate, about 20% of your cells in your gut are commensal, neutral, well, they're taking up real estate. They better contribute to good gut health, right? And so we study them. They're like the impressionable teenagers of the bacteria community.
Okay.
So we know that based upon the influence you exert on them with pathogens or with good food and good bacteria, that you tip them over and they either become pathogenic or symbiotic. So this gives us a whole 20% more runway to reverse disease. And that's why we've been so successful with this since 2014, because we're tipping that over in the strategy, not kill, kill, kill. It's no. Teach them, educate them, exert positive influence on them, just like a teenager, make them a productive member of society and instill these values in them, and they will keep you safe from disease for decades to come. So that is so important. And it's just, I can't believe it's still missing in modern science. It's missing in the papers. And so doing that, and then it's the right stage after that to optimize your hydrochloric acid. So that way, if you eat sushi and there's a parasite in the fish, no problem. It's going to kick it out, right? And so that's where you optimize your hydrochloric acid. Brain fog goes away. You feel like, oh, I have an iron stomach now. I can eat anything, right? Because we've done the healing and sealing. And I know you asked me about some healing and sealing, like slippery elm, marshmallow root, aloe vera. We're using all these at the same time with the probiotic strains to continue to reinforce the healing and sealing of the leaky gut.
Beautiful. Wow. I hope everybody had a notebook then, because there was so much gold in there. And I'd like to just recap this again because it's such a big topic, and really to sort of summarize it a little bit. First step is get rid of anything that's aggravating the gut, basically, right? So eliminating the common allergens you spoke about, which is like the wheat, the gluten, the dairy, eggs potentially for a lot of people at that early stage. And it's just removing the load from aggravating the gut. And then one interesting step that you speak about, which is not altogether that common, which is this pathogenic purge. And I love that idea. It's like, so you stop aggravating the gut, first of all. Stop putting fuel on the fire, as like Dr. Tom O'Brien would say. Stop like feeding the fire.
That is so his term, yes.
It's so his term, right? Then after doing that, then you do this pathogenic purge, which you spoke about, this diatomaceous earth and clay, things like this, to draw some of these pathogens out of the body. Beautiful. Then we get to this sort of stage of wanting to seal and heal the gut. And this sealing stage, I think, is really important, because one of the ways that I think about the gut is that it's been like it's our skin. So imagine a piece of skin that's been rough and scratched and inflamed, and it's red and it's there's like leaky blood coming through. This is like an inflamed, leaky gut, really, but we don't see it. But we feel it,
We don't
right?
see it, but that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and what do you put on skin like that? You put aloe vera, calming herbs, chamomile. So can we speak just for a moment here on how do we just calm the gut down and just help it be relaxed? So first of all, if people get rid of a lot of those irritants and then they calm the gut down, this is just a great step anyway. So what are key herbs or supplements or teas or things that people can do to calm the gut and really just calm that skin down?
I love starting the day with 2 to 3 ounces of aloe vera juice in your water, and you can add from the inner leaf of the aloe. Wonderful to calm, end the day with chamomile tea. When you're talking about healing and sealing, it's marshmallow root, deglycinarized licorice, slippery elm, really wonderful. And then also, James, we have, I pull from the principles of Ayurveda, and I know you know Ayurveda well. And I have our gut that I was drinking CCF tea, cumin, coriander, and fennel tea, because there's so much of it. If you've been struggling for a long time, your digestive organs have been working overtime. And so we have to give them a break. And I would suggest taking digestive enzymes at least once a year for 30 days. Give your digestive organs a break, tonify the GI tract after you heal it. And so by using CCF tea, you're going to be supporting the generation of digestive enzymes. You're going to help the pancreas produce more of its own enzymes. We'll be able to digest and use our protein, use the energy from it better. And a lot of people really, really like that. They like making a healing tea. So CCF tea is really one of my favorites.
Nice. So the aloe vera, amazing. And one of the things I love doing with aloe vera is taking a stem from the garden and peeling it and then slicing it into these thin little slices and putting a little bit of tamari on there, and it's like aloe vera sashimi.
Oh, I've never done that. I bet it does taste like wasabi as well. All right,
Yeah,
well,
you
I
could
gotta
use some
try it.
wasabi, of course.
Okay.
Um,
Wow, that's
the,
great.
the the next thing that I think, one of the things you spoke about, just that I want to sort of recap on here, because there's a lot you cover. I think, I think sometimes maybe you forget how much you know, so that you just power through this. But one of the things is bone broth you speak about. And I remember early on in my nutrition journey, and I really started studying in 2003. And then by 2007 in the US was the height of the raw food movement, where people would be like, well, how raw are you? 80%, 100%, this whole thing. And now in hindsight, as I've studied deeper and wider and read more about topics that I didn't believe in, that gave me more groundedness and a wider view or perspective, I started to see a bigger picture. And then bone broth came into the topic, and it challenges a lot of people, because they're like, no, I'm vegetarian and I want to be vegan and I want to not hurt animals and I want to be really do the right thing to the planet. And that's noble and amazing. And I totally get it. And I support that 100%. However, bone broth, in ancient traditions, they never just ate the rib fillet or the tornado or whatever and left the rest of the animal. They utilized the entire animal after a hunt or at a feast. And this indigenous understanding, we think, well, no, we'll just eat these high class quality, the inner meat. And we, instead of eating the sugar cane, we'll just have the white refined sugar. Instead of having whole fermented wild grains, we'll just have the white. Yeah, let's get rid of the healthy bit. And really, bone broth's now making this return to prominence. And it really has a calming effect on the body, right? Why is bone broth so important? And are there any vegetable-based alternatives or not? It just has to be bone broth. And what type of broths do you recommend? Chicken, beef, fish, etc.?
I'm a chicken is what chicken and beef what I recommend for primarily. But like you said, and thank you, and you reminded me to remind you of David Wolf talking about the raw food movement. But when you have leaky gut and you're healing, we have people eating 80% cooked. And while raw foods are great, most people aren't healthy enough to actually digest and utilize the nutrients in them. And you need to have 4 parts cooked to 1 part raw just to be able to get the nutrients out of the raw. So that's another thing. You can't really heal a gut completely on a raw food diet.
Yeah.
And so, you get the most collagen out of chicken, but it has to be cooked with the feet. And again, quality is everything. There's a lot of arsenic in chicken in the US. And so it has to be pasture raised, and most of the collagen's in the feet. And so a lot of these, what happens, what's frustrating is a lot of these companies, a fad catches on. So they're doing slow cooked broth. You don't know how they're making it. Are they using that, Are they using the alkaline water? Are they drawing the minerals out with the bones? Or is the feed in there to create collagen? Are they hot packing it? Do they wait for it to cool down before they pour it? Are you getting leaching from the plastic container? So there's so much there, and that we're always looking into before we recommend products. But of course, making it yourself is fast and easy, and
Well,
and
it's
really
slow
kind
and
of
easy.
brings you
It's slow
back.
and easy. It's slow and easy. It takes
It's
like
slow.
it
Yeah,
takes
sorry.
like a,
You're right, it's slow. It takes like 24 hours if you really want to cook it. However, but you throw everything in, that's fast, right? And
exactly,
turn the
of
slow
course.
cooker on, and then 24 hours later you have broth, or
I
12,
can see
depending
it
on how long
already.
you're cooking.
Fast,
Yeah.
slow, easy cooking with Christa Orecchio. It's a new cookbook.
I love it. But I'm a huge fan of Weston A. Price, and that the kind of, we've talked about bioindividuality a lot, and there's no one right diet for anyone. And I love to pull in pearls of wisdom. Yes, from the raw food diet, from Weston A. Price, from
Yes.
all kinds, blood type diet to really utilize Ayurveda for health. There's so many paths up the
Yes.
mountain.
Yes, indeed. Now, with bone broth, I mean, the collagen's the key sort of important part of the bone broth, which is really supportive of the gut and supporting gut health, and also for beauty. I mean, it's a powerful mineral for us. I mean, the gut is skin. This is what we need to what we're coming back to, right? It's just our inside skin. And so it helps our outside skin. Aloe vera is good for our outside skin and our inside skin. So really seeing what we eat as supporting our skin health, both inside and outside. but bone broth in particular. And I've experimented a lot with juice cleansing over the years. And now I've been integrating broth into my juice cleansing as well. And I heard you speak just about this idea of bone broth fasting. Can you tell me? I'm interested as a practitioner on the front lines of testing and like we're finding the best solutions for myself and for the Food Matters community. But do you do strict bone broth fasting just with bone broth only for 2 or 3 days, or are you doing water and bone broth fast, or are you doing like some super green juices with no sugary fruits as well as that? Like, tell me about what your sort of bone broth protocol is right now.
I like to have people drinking their turmeric ginger lemonade first thing in the morning. If you most people have some level of blood sugar instability, and a fast isn't going to be really great for them. But if you have none, then you can just do 1 to 2 green juices a day, no more than that, because we don't want to throw off the nervous system. And then 32 ounces of broth drink throughout the day.
Yes.
And so if you want to support the thyroid and the adrenals, and you still want to fast-ish, you can add ghee and additional collagen to that and have it with 1 piece of fruit each time you eat it. That will shut off the sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, and that will also nourish the thyroid. And we kind of call that nature's Xanax. Okay. Gives you that calm feeling. But then there are other people where, they have to have with lunch and dinner a piece of steamed fish and some steamed vegetables to go with that. But then you're really jump starting. So we do a 4-day bone broth fast, and that's the beginning of our pathogen purge, because that then again, it's like we're lowering the inflammation set point. We're slashing inflammation in step 1, and we're preparing the body to purge pathogens in step 2. And then the pathogen purge goes much, much easier because you've already starved a good amount of the yeast and the fungus and the bad bacteria, kind of knocked them down and prepped for an easier pathogen purge.
Nice. And I love that you still start with that idea of the lemon juice, the ginger, the turmeric, this lemon, ginger, turmeric, lemonade type thing in the morning. I'm such a huge proponent of that. I think one of the simplest things we can do for our health is to drink more high quality water and to infuse it with medicine. Ginger, like you said, can help improve our capability to produce HCl, which helps us digest better and fire up the digestion. Ayurveda talks to this. Turmeric is super anti-inflammatory. So I think in what you're talking about today, there's so much that people can integrate on a day-to-day basis into their protocol. So I guess really to recap today, teach us a little bit just in this final sort of moment here about what are the general principles. Again, let's highlight again general principles or other advice you might like to share with people about how they can look after their gut and their skin health and just overall experience a better quality of life, because we've covered so much topics today. I'd love to just hear your closing sort of remark on this.
Well, I think if we take it from the macrocosmic perspective that the body wants to heal and we have no idea how good we can feel, right? And to know that whatever you've done, whatever you've eaten, wherever you are, you can heal. I've seen it so much. And then I would just say, don't try to do everything all at once. It's like you're taking notes. What are 3 things that jump out at you that you can take? Okay, I'm going to do the CCFT, and I'm going to do ginger turmeric lemonade first thing in the morning. And just do that for a week. And then the next week, pick 2 or 3 new things. And then the next week, pick 2 or 3 new things. Add your digestive enzymes in, right? And so that's how we build a new lifestyle. That's how I even built my practice, right? We can't just make shifts overnight. It takes at least 6 weeks for our biochemistry to really start to shift in a different direction. So I think the fastest way is to go slow. If you listen to this, I don't know if you send out a transcript, but what are 3 things? And use your intuition. We, as humans, we don't use our intuition enough. If it jumped out at you, it's probably for a reason. Some people thought, I don't remember her ever talking about slippery elm, and some people are stuck on the slippery elm, right? So use your intuition, write down a couple of things and then explore them and add them in. And the fastest way to get healthy is really to go slow. And before you know it, it's just the lifestyle. You're just kind of like you and I at this point, James. It's like, I forget how hard it is for people because it's just the way I eat and live and shop and function. But it really is, it's so foreign to mainstream culture.
Yes. And I totally agree with you. And we share so much in common. And I'm so grateful for the insight that you've imparted today. And I just want to encourage people to take these steps as you've recommended, really a step-by-step approach to improving your health, one meal at a time, 1 week at a time. It's such a profound advice to finish on. And really, I'd just like to encourage people, if they feel like that something's resonated with them today, to make sure to check out Christa's work at The Whole Journey, or see some of her content on FMTV, which is now on Gaia. She has some great content on there. Or if you're really looking to take that next step on your healing journey, then studying nutrition with Food Matters could be your next step. Christa is one of the most incredible teachers inside this program. I'm so grateful for the lessons that she's been able to impart and bring so much depth and knowledge to this program. She's a fantastic teacher. So if you're looking to take that next step, you want to study nutrition online, we have some incredible offer and bonuses available for you. We're now a fully accredited online study program. You can self-pace and join a community of like-minded individuals around the world to take your knowledge to a deeper level. And I'd like to second what Christa said and really encourage you to go back to your workbook or your notebook right now and to write down some action steps. I think it was such a beautiful recommendation. What are 2 or 3 or 4 things that you're going to do right now, today, this week, to take this next step on healing your gut naturally and to really put this masterclass into action? Maybe it's to, like she said, have that ginger turmeric lemonade in the morning, just to say, I'm going to have, as a non-negotiable, I'm going to have that each morning. Maybe it's to incorporate some bone broth, or to start experimenting, making your own bone broth, looking up some recipes and getting more familiar with how to introduce this ancient gut healing tonic. Maybe it's to have some aloe vera, smoothing and the skin, or some of the tonics. Or maybe it's to start a journey of deepening your knowledge, to study with Christa and myself inside the Food Matters Nutrition Certification Program, if you're looking to do that, or find out more of her work on FMTV or Gaia. But really, if you're interested in going deeper, we'd love to welcome you to our community to take that next step as well. Christa, you are an absolute tour de force. Thank you so much for your time. I really love the work that you do. I'm such a huge proponent of your work, and thank you so much for your contribution to helping share this knowledge with the world through this masterclass, through all the incredible lessons. And like I said at the start of this call, inside the community of the students, the alumni, you're like without doubt highlighted as one of everyone's favorite teachers. And it's so amazing because you're up alongside some of the world's best teachers, like from Mark Hyman to Bruce Lipton, to David Wolfe, to these incredible, and they're like, this Christa Orecchio is amazing. People love you. So you have a special gift in teaching healing to the world. And I really want to continue to support you as a fan and as a fellow bastion of hope when it comes to healing. And I'm stand by you, and I'm sure that people listening to this as well do. So thank you so much for your work. For everything that we've mentioned in today's episode, you can check out the show notes. There will be links and information there for you. And before I go, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to invest in yourself and be here for this podcast. If there's anybody that you can think of who could benefit from this information, please make sure to share it with them. We believe in the power of life-changing information, and it's especially powerful when it's shared from a trusted source. And finally, if you could leave us a comment or make sure to subscribe to the podcast, we would greatly appreciate that. It helps us continue to bring you this life-changing information, and make sure that you get all future podcast updates sent to you. Have a beautiful day, and thank you once again.